What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another 60 feet 6 inches, your fantasy baseball home over at fakepigskin.com. I'm your host, Kyle Robert. You can follow me on Twitter at NotoriousKRO. With me once again, as always, is Ben Rolfe. What's up, Ben?
Not much, Carl. It's nice to be recording. It's only an hour and a half earlier, but it makes a lot of difference to how close I am to my bedtime and how sleepy I am when I do this podcast. So I'm feeling good. We've had some pretty crappy weather here this weekend, so it will be nice to talk about summer sport for a change, having spent the last 2 days sort of pretty much holed up indoors.
Well, yeah, and I've been pretty much in front of the TV the last 3 days because it's NFL draft time, and I've been waist deep in all these players and finding out where all these prospects are going to go. Obviously, if you're into fantasy football or the draft, I have a ton of stuff up on fakepigskin.com. There should be all kinds of content coming this way now that the draft is over and everybody's found their team, but. We're here to talk baseball, and, it's still going on. It's still very early in the process, so, I got rookie drafts and startup drafts and all this stuff for football, but we can't forget about our old friend baseball, and we got lots to get into today, so let's just do it, and let's talk about Mr. Ronald Acuna. He got called up. He's playing, hitting 375 with a bomb and 3 RBI. Man, I guess, it's in leagues where obviously he's almost 90% owned, so he's not available. I don't in those 13% on Yahoo where he's still available. Obviously, he needs to be picked up. But I guess what are your reasonable expectations, kind of over the rest of the year? What do you expect him to do? And is he a guy fantasy owners should be especially in redraft leagues, maybe trying to sell high and convince people that, oh, this is the next Bellinger or next Aaron Judge? Or do you just ride the wave and see how it goes?
I think if someone thinks he's going to hit 40 home runs, you sell him for that price. I see him as being a 15 home run, 20 steal kind of guy, which is extremely valuable, especially if he can hit around 300. Turns out he just decided that to teach the Braves a lesson about not wanting to be in the minor leagues, he was just going to hit really badly in AAA and then just hit really well whenever he played for the actual Atlanta club. So
Yeah.
it doesn't work for some, but it's clearly worked for him. They've called him up. They clearly decided, look, we don't want you sucking our AAA team down anymore. We're going to bring you up and see what you can do with the big club. So very, very strange that they sent him down, watched him do that, and then decided to call him up. It's all very bizarre after spring training. It just doesn't make any sense.
Some prospects will just get bored down there, so they don't concentrate like they need to. So I mean, I get it. I understand what happened, but clearly, he looks like he's pretty comfortable at the plate. The home run he hit was really nice. But yeah, I'm excited. I mean, as somebody who owns him in our dynasty league, I'm pretty happy to have him. In dynasty, is he a guy that's in that top 30 conversation for you? Like, if you were doing a dynasty startup today, would you how early would you consider taking him?
Oh, I think so, because you think about how we were talking about Jose Altuve at the start of
Yeah.
the season. I mean, Altuve probably offers a little bit more in terms of I know he's not been stealing so far this year, but you could probably talk about sort of 2025 with Altuve, whereas you're probably looking at the moment 15, 20 with Acuna, but he could absolutely develop into a 20, maybe even 30, 20 home run, maybe 30 steal guy who can hit around 300. He can absolutely be a 5 category contributor. I top 30 would be actually kind of safe on him. I think if you're really aggressive and you're in a startup draft today, you could argue that he could go among the top 15 just because longevity of career that he could have and the potential upside he could have. I wouldn't be surprised to see him go. Well, sky's the limit. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised I wouldn't recoil in horror if someone took him in the top 5 even. It's just that
Would would you
he's just
rather
that
take
talent.
would you rather take Acuna or Bellinger in dynasty?
Oh, that one's tough because I like the guys that can give you the balance in Dynasty, but I think it's probably Acuna actually.
Acuna or Aaron Judge?
Probably Judge. He's backing it up well this year.
Acuna or his teammate Ozzy Albies?
I'd go Acuna.
Yeah, and
No, sorry. I'd go Albies just because of the positional thing. I think Albies as a
yeah.
second baseman for the longevity is a lot more important to you than an outfielder. So actually, Albies would be the pick there just because of positionals.
Yeah, for me, I Bellinger, Acuna, then probably, and then Albies Judge is real close. But yeah, I mean that's the kind of player we're talking about, an elite option, a guy who and then over the next 5 to 10 years could be a first or second round pick every single season. The other guy, let's see here, he got called up. He made a start on Saturday, and then got sent down again. Is Jack Flaherty? I guess let's talk about him because right now he's not active, but he's looks like like has the potential to be a guy that's kind of in this rotation. It's just with the way they're kind of able to finagle him, and if they need an extra bullpen arm or if they need an extra bat off the bench, they can send him down and then bring him back up. Do you expect him to come back up for his next start, or do you think that now that it looks like Wainwright might be back, that Flaherty might have to wait another week or two before he gets another start?
Yeah, it's annoying, really, and I don't know the rules well enough about how it all counts when it comes to call-ups and stuff
Mm,
like that. I've learned this sport mostly through the fantasy aspect, so things like call-ups and stuff still escape me a little bit. So I don't know whether or not they can just keep yo-yoing all year, but that's kind of what the Dodgers have just done with Walker Buehler. They
yep.
yo-yoed him, so I'm just looking now. At the moment, it's looking like Wainwright might make the next start. I think if Wainwright's ready, he will. But I don't
Yeah.
think I'd be dropping Jack Flaherty because I just think I mean, Michaelis is a guy I've recommended people pick up this week, but it wouldn't shock me if he sucked in 2 weeks' time. Luke Weaver's really struggling, and they might decide to send him for a bit of seasoning. Um, so he's going to make starts sooner rather than later. Adam Wainwright is not going to stay healthy, and Jack Flaherty's going to be back.
Yeah, Flaherty's next start would be next Saturday against the Cubs, so we'll see if he makes that start. Um, but as of right now, it would be a home game against the Cubs, so we'll pay attention to him. At this point, I'm holding him just to see if he makes that start, but
You just can't start him. You
yeah,
can't start him in a weekly league. You can obviously in a daily because you
yeah.
can see what they do. But in a weekly league, if you're setting your lineup tomorrow morning, unless they come out and definitively say he will make his next start, unfortunately you have to keep him on the bench. But he's definitely a stash at this point.
Yeah, if you have one roster spot and Walker Bueller and Jack Flaherty are both available, who are you holding on to for the rest of the week in hopes they make their next start?
I feel like um, Jack Flaherty is going to be regularly in the rotation this year. I feel like Dodgers are going to do a lot of funny business with Walker Buehler. So I think in a redraft, Jack Flaherty for me.
Yeah, I'm probably with you, and I think I like him a little bit better. He definitely has a ton of strikeout potential, but at the same time, with this Dodgers rotation that features Rich Hill and Alex
Mm.
Wood and other injury-prone guys, Walker Bueller could find his kind of spot solidified a lot sooner. I don't know. They're both kind of in interesting spots, and obviously both have a ton of upside. But
I'd try and find someone else to drop on my
yeah,
rotation. There's a,
yeah,
there's a lot of crap. There's a lot of crappy pitching.
yeah. I would probably try and do the same. Let's ring the alarm and talk about some injured guys. And we'll start with Shohei Ohtani, who's dealing with a left ankle sprain. It's interesting with him because it seemed like he got banged up in his start before last, but then he was fine to hit, and he was doing uh, DHing and whatnot against some other teams, and then and that now now he's kind of dealing with an injury issue again. So I'm not really sure what to make with him. And then for a pitcher who needs to be able to press off of his ankle, like this doesn't seem like an ideal injury.
No, and this is going to be the problem now with Otani. I think it's just going to be. It worries me that we're just going to see yo-yo kind of injuries all year, where he's up and in the lineup one day, he's down and out of the lineup the next day. It's going to be a pain in the ass, and I mean, you've kind of missed your window to sell high now because I think
Mhm.
with the injuries and the sort of hype disappearing, you're going to
Yeah.
struggle. I wouldn't be looking to sell Otani now because I think what he can offer you, especially in daily formats, is very valuable. But again, he's a guy you're holding this week and you're not starting because you can't trust that they'll let him pitch on that ankle. They might let him hit on it, but they might not let him pitch on it. And therefore, if you've got to pick in a weekly league, him as a hitter or a pitcher, you can't go ahead and do that this week.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. If you're looking at, sorry, let's head to the DL and let's talk about some guys that are going to be ending up on there, and we'll start with Adrian Beltre. Adrian is a guy that I was excited about this year, but he's definitely on the wrong side of 30, and he's definitely on the backside of his career. It looks like he's going to be out until mid-May with a hamstring issue, and that's something you should be concerned about, kind of with older players, anyways. They don't want to rush him back too soon, and with the Rangers not being that great, I can't imagine him like being coming back anytime soon. So, is Beltre? I guess. What are you doing if you own Beltre? Is he a guy you're going to put on your DL if you have room? Are you comfortable, dropping him if you don't have room on your DL? What are you doing with him?
Yeah, I think it really depends on the depth of your bench and stuff like that, and the depth of your league. If you're in quite a deep league, you're obviously going to be holding him. But if you're
Yeah.
in a shallow league where kind of there's people like I've seen leagues with like the guys like Evan Longoria and Eugenio Suarez out there on the waiver wire, especially after Suarez's injury, then I'm probably dropping him because I don't think we can rely on him even when he comes back to play the rest of the season. I think you're going to have to accept now that maybe 125 games is Beltre's ceiling on a year,
Yeah.
and where his value has always been is not just in his power, but in his ability to year in year out turn up and hit around 300 for 140 plus games, and he can't do that for you anymore, and it's such a shame. And as a Rangers fan, it's particularly sad. The Rangers are a complete mess hitting and pitching this year. It's just a horrible situation for Beltray, and honestly, if I do have my concerns that if this hamstring injury lingers after what he had last year, that it wouldn't surprise me with the way the Rangers look for the next few years, whether Beltray looks at hanging it all up this year.
Yeah.
I really hope not, but it just wouldn't surprise me. And if I'm in a dynasty league, I might even just look to sell him for whatever I can get at this stage because I don't know. I don't know what his long term future is, and that's a serious concern for me.
Yeah, let's mix in some waiver wire stuff with these injuries, and I think it'll make for a good conversation. So, if you own Beltre, are you dropping him to pick up Evan Longoria, who's less than 70% owned on Yahoo?
Yeah, I think I am. Longoria's not been great, but I think I just trust him to play more this year.
What about Miguel Andujar, who, on the Yankees, hitting over 300, 3 homers, 12 RBIs, a guy that I'm excited about and mentioned in my waiver wire piece this week. But, with the struggles they have on kind of on the corners and, Greg Bird's injuries, it seems like Andujar could be up for the long haul.
Yeah, I think I actually probably would look to drop him for Andy Hart, just especially just because I think he will hang around all season. I don't see Drury coming back and displacing him if he's hitting well, and it's not like Walker or anybody's going to go over there when Bird is back and they all start shifting around again. I just think that Andujar's done so well that if someone was to be sent down, I think it would be Gleyber Torres before it would be him.
Yeah, no, I think I'm with you, which is, obviously in dynasty leagues, I'd much rather have Gleyber Torres, but if we're talking about for 1 year, I think Andahar over Gleyber Torres is the way to go for sure.
Hmm?
Um, let's talk about Mr. Eric Thames, a very big blow to my NFBC team, a guy that I was really excited about. He's going to be out almost 2 months with a thumb issue. Um, and then that he'll probably be at least 4 to 6 weeks before he starts swinging a bat. So, I wouldn't expect him till close to the All Star break at this point, which is a big blow. Obviously, really frustrating. If you're a Eric Thames owner, is he a guy that you're holding on to for 2 months?
No, I don't think it is. We saw him drop off no end at the end of last year. I was just trying to find his splits for last season, but we saw him completely tumble towards the end of the year. And I mean, maybe we won't see the same this year because we won't see quite so much of that kind of fade that we saw because a lot of it was fatigue last year, I felt.
Mm.
But I just, yeah, I can't put a lot of faith into what he's going to give you when he gets back. And for that reason, I'm probably looking to move on from him here. There's a fair chance that he was a late round draft pick for you or even a waiver wire pickup, and he's given you what you needed early in the season.
Yeah, and with keeping in mind all these guys, like we're not saying that you need to go drop them, but if you're looking at your roster and you have three bench spots and one or two DL spots, and you have a stud on there and you can't afford to hold on to him, like it's completely okay to go drop him and pick up somebody else, like especially Dames who's going to be out almost 2 months. Now, if you have plenty of room or you're in a deeper league where there's just not something there, well, then yeah, keep them, make it work, and try and hold on. Throw out a few first base names that I like, Ben, and we'll start with Brandon Belt, who, as a Giants fan, has always frustrated me, but obviously has been pretty strong this season. Had a nice run of power. He had 4 straight games with a home run, and then 5 of 6. But 4 of the 5 came on the road, so that kind of really helps his power. Obviously, AT&T is a power sapping park, but he's still hitting over 300. He's got a steal on the season. For a guy who's available in under 70% of leagues, Brandon Belt could be a great name to turn to if Eric Dames is hurt and you need a new first base.
Oh, Kyle. You've been sucked in by Brandon Belt again. You promised me it wasn't going to happen this year, and it did. So my thoughts are that this is Brandon Belt. He'll hit 280 and about 20 home runs, and you've probably missed the hot streak. So I'm gonna add if he's the best one out there, and I need a first baseman, but he's not going to be a guy I'm actively going to go looking for.
Okay, so the guy I prefer over Belt, and we'll see what you think, is C.J. Cron down in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I actually kind of agree because Crone is a power hitter if that's what you need. But the difference I think Belt is going to have safer playing time because Brad Miller is sort of mixing in at first base. Daniel Robertson's been playing well in Tampa Bay. Joey Wendell's been playing well in Tampa Bay. Matt Duffy is now back. Wilson Ramos will probably have time at catcher, so Crone is gonna miss days. I mean, he has played DH 4 out of the last 6 days, which is promising. But I do worry that if Wendell and Robertson keep hitting the way that they're hitting, then we could see, and Crone has a little mini slump. We could see him struggle. But for now, I'd rather have Crone. But don't be surprised if you end up getting very frustrated when CJ Crone is sitting.
Yeah, I would be surprised to see Crone sit very much, but we'll see. Yuli Gurriel, he's obviously hasn't been great to start, since coming back from the injury and the suspension, but he's another guy who's available in, 70% of Yahoo leagues. Is he a guy that interests you? Do you think he'll, start playing better and get hot?
If I needed help now, it would be Crone or Belt. But
Yeah.
if what I needed was a guy that I could bring in who would offer me average and stuff over the next few months, I might look to get Yuli Gurriel and just sit him on the bench. You have to remember that he lost most of spring training. He lost the first 10 days, and I think his rehab assignment got screwed up by the fact that he had his suspension and all that kind of stuff. It all kind of messed up with the suspension. So I'm not quite sure how that all played in, but I think that Gurriel's going to turn it around. I think he'll be pretty much what he was last year, which is around a 300 or a 280 to 300 hitter. And I think that means that you're going to see the best of him now going forward. He'll have the frustrations that I think that Crone will have, probably to a greater extent, though, where you'll find him out of the lineup when they do their rotational stuff. I'd probably rather have CJ Crone, actually.
Yeah, no, I think I'm with you. Although,
Gamble on the upside.
yeah, I mean,
you might as well gamble on the upside, especially in Roto League. Upside is what wins a Roto League, and I know power isn't what it used to be, but you still need to go and get power.
yeah, I mean, if you're looking for pure average, Gurriel should get hit above 300 all the rest of the season. But I'm with you. It's probably Crone, Gurriel, Belt for me. But all three of those guys are very interesting. We could talk about Joe Panic for a second because he is hitting to the DL. It's funny, I remember the start to the season where he was showing this new swing and putting, scoring all these, hitting home runs and scoring runs and all this stuff, and now he's on the DL. He's completely droppable, and he hasn't been good for that long. And I don't know. He's definitely a guy that if you're using him, you're probably in an NL only or super deep mixed. But yeah, unfortunately, he is done, and you just got to see what you can do. I wanted to throw out a couple names at second base. Obviously, one of them you won't be able to get, or presumably you won't be able to get if you're rostering Joe Panic. But where are you at with Ian Happ? Do you think he's a guy that should be owned in more than 70% of leagues, or do you think that's about right and you can't really, you're between the playing time issues and the not very productive plate appearances, I guess. Is he a guy that you're comfortable, kind of where he's owned 60, 70%?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because he's played 3 out of the last 6 days. He's out of the lineup again today. Sometimes when he's in the lineup, he's hitting ninth. It seems he's lost that job again to Albert Almora completely. He's now in a platoon with Schwarber, is he? With Schwarber going well,
Yeah, I
with
mean, he plays
yeah,
all
they've
over
had
the place. There's not
yeah, they've
necessarily.
had the DH this week, which has kind of twisted things. So he played twice in left field when they had the DH earlier on in the week. So Schwarber went DH naturally, and it worked that way. And then Chris Bryant's been there, so that's kind of twisted things a little bit. And now you've got Zobrist back, who can be that second base utility man when they need to get Addison Russell or Javier Baez off the field for a little while. So yeah, I've got concerns adding Happer. I like my second baseman to be playing every day, and that's what at least Joe Panic was giving you was everyday stuff. Can I just say, Joe Panic meet Brandon Belt meet Joe Panic. They kind of the same guy to me for now.
Yeah, yeah. If you're in deeper leagues and you're looking for middle infield help, I like Daniel Robertson from the Tampa Bay Rays. This guy's been hot, hitting 346, 2 homers, 6 RBIs as of Friday. Obviously, he can hit lefties, which is good. Keeps him in the lineup. And for a team, he's been hitting like third, fourth, fifth most days for the Rays. And obviously, that team is kind of getting healthy, so it'll be interesting to see where he kind of slots in. But if he keeps hitting the way he is, and especially against lefties, I think he'll be a guy that in deeper leagues can make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think so. And the only thing to watch out for, and I don't know if you can do this, but it might be worth getting him and Joey Wendell kind of
Mm-hmm.
to pair if that's what you want to do. But I don't know. They're both in the lineup today, and it's Matt Duffy sitting, so it's definitely something to keep an eye on. Might be worth an ad just to see. He's not a long-term solution. They've got Willie Adames, Christian Arroyo sat in the minor league system. They've also got Jake Bowers, who will probably come up and fill up a spot in terms of first base or DH at some point. So you just need to be aware of all of that before you think long term about Daniel Robertson. But if you need help now, he's a great guy to add. He's actually hitting left and right-handed pitches really well. So I'd be shocked if he's not playing regularly for the foreseeable future until he cools off. He's a guy you want to ride the hot streak on. He can play all over the infield.
Yeah. Will Myers hit the DL today, dealing with an oblique issue. It's definitely been a frustrating season for Myers, who seems like he's been banged up all season.
Yeah, it's just been a bad year for Will Myers. I don't know if this is related to the move to the outfield. It'll be definitely interesting to see. You can only think that all of these are going to set his hitting back. I mean, he's been hitting 300, which has been really promising, but he's only had 40 plate appearances. He's got 1 home run and 1 steal. I mean, what he's done when he's been in the lineup, apart from the fact that he hasn't walked a single time, is relatively promising and is something that I'd like to see more of. But if he can't stay in the lineup, it's going to be a serious issue. And they've committed a lot of money to Eric Hosmer. So if he can't adjust to outfield, you could find Will Myers playing off the bench a lot if that's the way they think, or even being traded to a less favourable situation. It's not a good situation for Myers at the moment, and I, as a heavy Myers investor, am worried.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, they have Perella, they have Hunter Renfroe, who should be back from the DL soon. They have Manuel Margot. Like they have Villanueva, who can play third. Like they have a lot of guys there. Have to find a way to get into the lineup. That they're gonna have to make the decisions. And if Will Myers keeps getting hurt, it's gonna make their decision a lot easier for them. Andrew Miller headed to the DL. Uh, I don't know. Like he's a guy that's kind of useful just because he's so good when he's in there, but he doesn't get saves. Um, I don't know how crazy I would be about holding on to Andrew Miller.
No, I feel kind of the same. I feel like we do this every year where we get all excited about these middle relievers and then get really disappointed when they don't become what Josh Hader's become and don't take over the closing job. This is what we draft these guys for. We
Hmm.
draft them to just be good, but not offer you saves, and then you can't be disappointed enough because Miller's doing exactly what you want him to do. But if you haven't got the room on your DL, you can't be storing Andrew Miller for another few days. I mean, he should only be on for the minimum amount of time. So if you can suck it up for a few days and maybe you need to shed some starting pitching because you've gone heavy early on and stuff like that, then Miller's a good guy to keep. But if you need starting pitching in a weekly league, then by all means go and drop Andrew Miller this week.
Yep, and we'll give you some names that you can stream and to start this week. We'll throw out a few returning players here in a second, but we'll talk about J.P. Crawford, who's on the DL. This is good news if you're a Scott Kingery owner, another guy who could be added in if you need middle infield help. I guess Crawford's a guy that's kind of a little bit better for real baseball than he is for fantasy, but the fact that it's going to open up everything for Kingery to play more often, I think is a good thing.
Yeah, I mean Crawford's been rubbish. What we need from Crawford is average, really, and what he's been is a 188 hitter. He has hit two home runs, which I'm quite impressed about because he's not a big home run hitter. He's not a big steals guy. Everyone was hoping that he could make the next step, but you're right. He is more of a real life kind of player than he is anything else. It is good for Kingery. I would like to see what happens now in terms of how often Kingery plays. Um, in terms of how often Kingery plays shortstop, is he now going to be the everyday shortstop? I'm just looking who else is on their roster who can play shortstop, and I don't know if Hernandez or Herrera can cover shortstop. I don't know if what Valentine's like playing
Yeah,
shortstop.
my guess would be that Odubel takes over at third, Kingery plays short, and Herrera stays at second.
I think Michael Franco is going to stay at third for the time being.
Oh
He's
yeah,
played there 5 out of the last 6 days. Kingery's been the one that's been kind of the move kind of guy. So I think it will be Kingery mostly at shortstop. I
yeah.
think you're right. I think Franco there, and then if Franco struggles, then Herrera maybe comes into third base, and they try and get Nick Williams back in the lineup.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how. I mean, like this is still a team with a bunch of young players that are really exciting, but we'll see. There's definitely a lot to get in there. But if you're a Kingery owner or you're interested in picking him up because you need middle infield help, this is something that should help him be in the lineup almost every day. So I'm gonna throw out a few names. Just tell me who you're most excited about. Anthony Rendon's close to return. Josh Donaldson supposed to return next weekend. Carlos Gonzalez, who it's Carlos Gonzalez, so we can't get too excited about him, but he should be back this week. I guess is there a guy, Byron Buxton, who's working on his return as well? Anybody you're really excited to see come back and think, could be really productive when they do?
I'd like to see Josh Donaldson come back into that Toronto lineup that's been extremely productive. I do have a little bit of concern about the fact that Salate has been reasonably good this year, but I think what will happen is you'll find Aledmus Diaz drops onto the bench or even down into AAA. Salate slips over into shortstop, and Donaldson goes back into third base. So I was just looking. I know Devon Travis got option today, and I'm just
He
trying to
did.
work out. I think they brought up a pitcher for that, didn't they? It looks like they brought up a relief pitcher because they're only going with a three-man hitting bench. So
Yeah.
I think that's maybe a move to make room for Josh Donaldson. Is what they've said is we don't need Devon Travis this weekend into early next week. We're going to put Travis down, and then we can put the pitcher down, and we'll just carry the extra pitcher for the week. So
Yep.
that'll be interesting to see. I think Donaldson's going to come straight back in. I think he'll do fine. I think he'll be Josh Donaldson. I think you might see him playing at DH occasionally, which is bad for Steve Pearce.
Yeah.
And good for Ledmus Diaz. So.
Yep. Let's talk about Carlos Gonzalez because obviously, like we don't love him for fantasy. We used to. He used to be incredible, but he's just not the same player anymore. But with his return, do we expect David Dahl to go back down to the minors? Do we think Ryan McMahon maybe goes and sees some time at AAA? Maybe Dahl gets some time at first, or Desmond goes to first, and then they play Dahl and Cargo in the outfield. Kind of, what's your read on the Rockies situation?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know Dahl's history at first base, so I don't know whether or not that would be a move they'd want to do. Because the Rockies aren't out of the gate slowly. They've been doing quite well so far, so they'll want to keep putting the foot on the trigger and keep chasing down the Diamondbacks because I imagine they're predicting that the Diamondbacks will come back to the pack and the Dodgers will start to push. Look at your Giants above the Dodgers. What is going on in the world?
Everything's so good.
Oh, everything's so weird. Yeah, the issue I've got is that Dahl's been playing pretty much every day in the outfield, whereas Ian Desmond's been playing pretty much every day at first base. So 4 out of the last 6 at first base and 2 in the outfield, but he's only been at first base since Gerardo Parra came back. So I think Desmond's going to be the first baseman. I think Dahl probably slips back into a bench role and Ryan McMahon slips down onto the minor league roster, but I suppose it depends whether they think Dahl can handle first base. If they think Dahl can handle first base, he'll be the kind of utility infield outfield kind of guy. I know Valakai could probably do it, but I think what they'll do is they'll use Desmond as the move around guy, and I'm actually thinking it'll probably be McMahon that stays up and Dahl that goes down unless Dahl can prove he can play first. Well, there's no Cuevas in who's around, who's played right field 4 out of the last 5 days while they've been moving things around. So it might be that Cuevas goes down and Dahl goes back to the bench, which would be interesting. Or maybe they just stick Gonzalez on the bench and let Dahl stay in the lineup.
Yeah, I think that's the more likely scenario. And what are you doing with Ryan McMahon? Obviously, this is a guy that a lot of hype people were drafting coming into the season, but he's just not been good, and he very rarely plays. If you're not in a keeper or dynasty league, like he's not owned a ton anyways, but in deeper leagues where he is he a guy you're still holding on to in hopes that he can find a way to play most days and gets hot? Or like, can we kind of punt on him for now, and then if it looks like he's starting to heat up, try and jump on him, and if you miss out, you miss out?
Yeah, the question is, what's the upside? Because he only hit 14 home runs in 314 plate appearances in AAA. Like, is he all of a sudden going to be 20 home run guy if he plays the best part of the rest of the season? I'm not 100% convinced. I think he'll hit for a decent average, but can he hit for enough power? So I actually think I would move on. I think if CJ Cron's out there, I'd go and get CJ Cron because you can get the power boost. If you need average, I'd go get Yuli Gurriel. And if you need desperation, I'd go get Brandon Belt.
I'm gonna throw out a few outfield names if you're struggling. I want to know what you think. Leonis Martin, Teoscar Hernandez, Mac Williamson. Williamson's obviously dealing with the concussion, but I did want to include him because he's a guy that, even if you don't add him right away, he's a guy that's very interesting to me, and I expect him to come in as soon as his 7-day stay on the concussion DL is over, get back in the lineup and start crushing. He basically spent the offseason with Justin Turner's hitting coach and reworked his swing. And this is the same hitting coach that turned Justin Turner from a guy who was out of baseball to an all-star level third baseman. So there's a lot to be interested in here. Obviously, Williamson's been crushing ever since getting the recall. Probably is definitely not a guy you could add and start. So if you need someone to start, that's not a good name to target. But Ben, Leonis Martin, Teoscar Hernandez, I guess, which of these guys are interesting to you? And do you expect Hernandez to be able to find a way to stay in the lineup even with Josh Donaldson back?
Yeah, I think so, because I don't see Solarte going out to the outfield when Donaldson comes back. The only one that could displace him is if Grichuk was to go out there, and I think the way it stands is they're more likely to keep bringing Curtis Granderson out of the lineup and finicking around with Steve Pearce and Randall Grichuk. I think they like Hernandez out there. I think they see him as the future of their outfield. So, although saying that, it wasn't that long ago, we thought we would that about what's his name, Dalton Pompey. Doesn't that tell you everything?
Oh my God! Remember when
I
that
can't
was
even
a
remember
thing?
Yeah, when I can't remember his name. I like Teoscar Hernandez. I really like Leonis Martin leading off. I think I'd probably go Teoscar Hernandez because I just think the upside might be a little bit better for him. And they're hitting 1 and 2 in the lineup, so that's basically a wash. I don't know. Was Mac Williamson hitting leadoff for the Giants?
No, he was hitting. Let's see. He was hitting like in the middle of the order.
Okay,
Um,
that's still pretty good. I was just trying to work out if he was going to be the leadoff hitter. I'd probably say, well, what I'd probably do is if I've got a DL slot and say I'm in a league with a lot of DL slots, I'd add Matt Williamson, stick him on the DL, grab Teoscar Hernandez or Leonis Martin in that order, and then I'd see if this is real for Teoscar Hernandez and Leonis Martin, where Matt Williamson is ready to come off the DL. I think at the moment I'd rather have. I think I'd rather have Teoscar Hernandez at the moment and chance that this is a fluke from Mac Williams because Teoscar Hernandez does at least have some prospect hype behind him.
yeah. Yeah. Man, I feel like there's something here with Williamson, and he wasn't a guy that I was excited about before. And I don't for a team that has major issues in the outfield. Obviously, Hunter Pence is basically done. Obviously McCutcheon will play every day, and then it's just figuring out where Pence and Austin Jackson and Mac Williamson are going to play. So, man, I think there's something there, and in deep leagues, I think he's worth adding. And if you have flexibility, obviously, if you don't, then don't add him. But I do think he's an interesting player, and I'm willing to jump on the opportunity to see if maybe something's different here. Let me see if I can pull up a few more names just to see anybody else in the outfield that might be interesting.
I was just having a look at Mac Williamson, just trying to piece back. I mean, the Giants lineup is a mess.
Oh my
I
God,
mean,
tell me
like
about it.
they rotate 2 or 3 hitters on any given day. I mean, just going back through it. Okay, so Tuesday they probably went with their standard 1 through 8. Although I don't know where Kelby Tomlinson was at that point. But anyway, and then Wednesday in came Hundley, Sandoval, Jackson. Friday in came Hernandez and Jackson. I mean, I'm quite impressed you found a wide receiver who's got a real, a outfielder who's got a real name, to be honest, in Mac Williamson.
Did you
And
see
then obviously
did you see Pablo Sandoval pitching? Did you see that gloriousness?
that was the double header, wasn't it? I
Yeah,
mean,
they in the first game of the doubleheader they were getting their clock cleaned, and Pablo came in and was the best pitcher they had all day. It was I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's definitely an interesting thing.
yeah, apologies to all you Chris Stratton owners. I added Chris Stratton for that game and he got promptly smashed. So
Yeah.
I'm just going to start putting out public service announcement tweets and say who I've picked up today and who I'm streaming. And please go and start somebody else, anybody else. Start every hitter that faces that pitcher. And if I tell you a pitcher's going to have a bad day, put him in your lineup because my God, I am getting it so wrong at the moment.
So in that case, let's talk some streaming. Let's talk some dreaming. Let's talk some two-star pitchers, and we'll start with Eduardo Rodriguez. That Monday start at Kansas City looks really nice. So let's start there. Let's start if you're in daily leagues and you're looking at just that matchup. Is Eduardo Rodriguez somebody that you're comfortable using on Monday?
Yeah, it's actually in Boston, I believe. I double checked that. He is someone I definitely use for that start. I question in a weekly league whether I want to risk him at Texas because I don't know. I like revenge games though, and he came from Texas, didn't he, as a prospect? So I like I like those kind of revengey type games. So
Yeah.
I think with Rodriguez next week, I would start him for both those lineups. The Texas lineup is very fallible, especially with Beltray not there.
Well, that's the thing. Is like, yeah, Joey Gallo and the Rangers could just go ham and crush him, but like, there's also a lot of strikeout potential in that lineup, and I'm using him for both starts, definitely, Jet, definitely. Let's talk about Jake Faria. This guy's been really good after starting kind of really sluggish the first couple starts. He's got a road game against Detroit, and then he's got a home game against Toronto for his second start. Is this another pitcher that you're picking and choosing matchups, or are you comfortable rolling him out there for both starts?
Um, I think I'd definitely roll him out there for the Detroit start. Detroit have not been bad, but
Yeah.
it's been more through their kind of all-round game rather than just because their lineup's been absolutely on fire. Although I have noticed they've been getting a bit hotter recently. I think if I'm going to start Faria, it would be for that game. I don't know if Josh Donaldson's back in that Toronto lineup at the end of the week. I don't think I can start him in a weekly league.
Yeah, it's well, honestly, I would because if Donaldson's back, I expect him to take a couple games to kind of get where he needs to get. So I think if I have Faria and I'll start him for both of them in daily. Maybe if Donaldson comes back on Thursday and looks like he's crushing, maybe I'll consider not using him for the weekend. But in weekly leagues, I'm locking him in and I'm okay with it.
Meh, fair enough. Go with it.
Yep. And if I'm fading you, then it's probably gonna work out really well. So that's good.
Yeah, that's true.
Let's talk Sean Newcomb against the Mets. He's on the road. It's the road start, so away from SunTrust Park, which is always good. Is Newcomb a guy you're comfortable using this week?
Yeah, I think I am. The Mets have massively cooled off lately, and Newcomb has been good on the road. He was even good in Colorado, I vaguely remember. And
Mm-hmm.
anytime he doesn't pitch in Atlanta, I'm going to be
Yeah,
all over Sean Newcomb. So
he's one of like three pitchers to go to pitch in Colorado, and get more than 8 or 9 strikeouts and not allowed earned. It was the other one was Randy Johnson and then John Gray. So, um,
yeah, and John Gray sucks at the moment, so let's
yeah.
not read too much into that. Yeah, play Sean Newcomb. Therefore, everybody else bench Sean Newcomb because he's going to be crap.
Yep. No, I'm totally with you. Um, let's talk about Rich Hill because this is obviously a guy who's coming back from injury. He's got 2 road games this week at Arizona, at San Diego. If you're a Rich Hill owner, is it as simple as just plug and play, or do you have reservations?
This is what you draft Rich Hill for. If you're going to draft Rich Hill and you're not going to use him in every start, you've basically wasted your draft pick, in my view,
Yep.
unless you've got him at an absolute steal. You have to. He's at Arizona with the Humidor, and he's at San Diego with the Padres. So yeah,
Yep. No, I totally agree. What about Andrew Triggs? Obviously had that rough start, but bounced back in a big way. Now he's got a 2-start week. He's got at Seattle, and then he's home for Baltimore. I think this is a guy that I would absolutely throw out there. Both Seattle and Baltimore can put up a big crooked number, but I think there's enough there in between strikeout potential and then obviously Baltimore being at home that he can be really successful this week.
yeah, he can. He absolutely. This is a start where we could see 2 starts where we could see 16 strikeouts in 12 innings from him.
Hmm.
It's also one where we could see 10 earned runs in 4 innings because Seattle can absolutely get hold of you. I feel like Seattle probably in their home, like he's pitching in Seattle and in Oakland this week. I always like when someone is doing that. I feel like that you're hedging your bets that you're going to do quite well. I mean, Baltimore are going to have to make some really loud contact to get the ball out of that park. I think there's more chance Baltimore miss a lot.
Yeah.
And the only concern I have with Triggs is he sometimes struggles to go much more than 5 innings, and you really need him to be going 6+ to be a really valuable guy in terms of strikeouts. But he could absolutely have 7, 8 strikeouts in 5 and a bit innings. So I'd be starting him this week.
Yep, I'm with you. What about guys to avoid? We can start with Jake Junis, who pitches at Boston and then home for Detroit. Is he a guy is that Boston start enough to scare you off, or do you think there's enough there where it could be worth it with that Detroit matchup?
I think the Boston starts enough. He already is limited on his upside with his strikeouts. He doesn't strike out enough guys for me to be a massively valuable play in either of these starts. If say it was, I don't know, two bad teams and you thought he could get out of it with a 1 earned run across 10, 12, 13 innings this week, I'd absolutely go for it. But the chance that he gives up 5 or 6 earned runs in Boston outweighs the opportunity that he goes and strikes out more than a batter per innings in Detroit. It's just not worth the risk for me.
Yep. I think I'm with you. Let's talk about Sonny Gray, who has a doozy of a 2-start week at Houston and versus Cleveland.
Yeah, my problem here is that Sonny Gray's not been very good anyway. And so I don't really want to take this risk this week. I mean, I'm not going to kick myself if Sonny Gray goes and shuts out both these teams over 15 innings or so. I'm not going to be I'm not going to be angry with myself. I'm going to be absolutely fuming with myself if I start him and he goes to Houston and gives up 6 earned runs in 2 innings. I'm going to just be punching myself inside the head, going, you knew this. So, like, if he was on the road in Cleveland, I might consider him for that start. But I just think at home that park can be so dangerous if you get it wrong, and Gray just doesn't seem to be getting it right at the moment.
Yeah, well, and the other thing I thought was interesting is we were talking in our group chat, and Damien posted the stat of basically Sonny Gray with Gary Sanchez and Sonny Gray with Austin Romine, and the massive difference between the two. So in weekly leagues where you're locking it in, it's hard to you can't go, oh, Romine's starting, so it might actually be okay. But yeah, I'm with you. It's frustrating, but I think if you're a Sonny Gray owner, you have to look to avoid him this week. Let's talk about one more guy, Jamison Tyone. He's got two road starts at Washington and at Milwaukee, two really good lineups, and this is a guy who is coming off back-to-back absolute disasters. I think Tyone's a guy that has to sit on your bench until things turn around.
Yeah, I think so too. I just think he's been really bad lately. Washington can be really dangerous, and Milwaukee at home can be a place where you can regret a lot very quickly. And I just don't see the upside in it for this week. It's just there's too much risk. So I'm gonna sit him and live with my decision there.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you. Okay, Ben, this was a lot of fun. Obviously, good to catch up. Make sure you are checking out Fake Pigskin. Ben and I are both putting up tons of fantasy baseball content, including daily recaps on stuff you need to know as fantasy owners, as well as our waiver wire, as well as our two start, as well as our streamers and dreamers, and we try and catch you up on the rest over the podcast. Obviously, if you have questions, hit us up on Twitter at Notorious KRO, at Ben Rolfe 15. Send us questions, send us trade offers, whatever you need, and we'll see if we can't help you. But for Ben Rolfe, I'm Kyle Robert, and we'll talk to you guys next time.